us onto Facebook. So my first question is, how do you juggle all this? Before we get into the confidence, I can see that you are coaching executives, you're speaking. How do you juggle the personal life and the professional life?
That's a really good question. For me, what I do is I prioritize taking time out for myself. And for me, that's actually not brand new. I know that if I want to show up for everything you just spoke about, I have to be okay. So I know I'm pretty in tune with what makes me okay. And for me, it's literally, I'm in Canada, so we have snow the majority of the year, but I simply need to get out and get some sun in. So if it means it's the dead of winter, I'll drive to a parking lot and I'll sit, I'll grab a tea, and I'll allow the sun to kind of bake on me. So that's one thing for me, or I'll jump to the spa for a quick hour massage. But to answer your question directly, I have to make time for myself. That's what
Yeah,
it is.
that's so important because you can't give from an empty cup. You need to give from your overflow. And I hear so many midlife women are overdoing it. And then when they give to themselves, they feel guilty. So if you're listening, really get that vitamin D. That's so important for our immune system, for our happiness. So let's dig into confidence. So first, how can women be more confident at work? Get a lot of women who are like, I don't want to lean into those meetings. They kind of, especially introverts, right? They're sitting back and then they're feeling like my career isn't where I want it to be. So what are your suggestions at work?
So how can you be more confident at work? Really good question. Here's where I want to begin though, before we can get there, is a lot of people believe that confidence is an emotion, and it's not. It's an actual behavior, which means it's a skill set that we can build. So the first step to showing up with more confidence in any area of your life, especially at work, is to choose to act with confidence. And then we get into the tips. But the first thing to acknowledge is I can't wait to feel confident. Because if I wait for that feeling, you might be waiting for 5 years, a decade. Might be in the same role for 20 years, waiting to feel confident. So here's how you actively and actually show up with more confidence at work. The first thing is this: commit to sharing what you want, commit to speaking up, and stop focusing on how people will react. So quite often we're fully attached and focused to the outcome, right? And when we focus on the outcome, we're focusing on how other people will think, what they'll say, what they won't say, what they'll do. And in true, Dr. Ellen, we've never had any control over that in any capacity. So I say take back control of yourself,
Yeah,
right?
that's so good. It's a kind of what I tell people about weight loss. Like, focus on what you can focus on, right?
You
Don't
got it.
focus on the thing, but focus on your lifestyle change, how you're showing up in the meeting, how you're feeling, what your vibration is, and don't
Definitely.
focus on like what everybody's thinking and where it's all going. That's fabulous, a
Right.
fabulous tip to start. So what can people do with their friendships? And I think that's a big issue too with women at midlife, is particularly if you're kind of at the end of your kids being in school and you're facing empty nest, so you don't have like the school arena for friendships. How can women make friends, and also how can they communicate with their friends?
A really good question. Here's the thing: be honest. Stop trying to fit in. A lot of the time, we decide what we're going to say or not say based on, once again, the thoughts of other people or the reactions of other people. So the biggest thing is be honest. And the reason I say be honest, it's not as simple as that. The reality is you want to make friends and be friends and develop deeper relationships with people who like you, for people who like your quirks. And I wouldn't even call them quirks, who just like you for you. Because otherwise, your people are getting to know someone who's false. And every time you interact with those group of individuals or those new friends, you're having to put on this act, this show, and this mask. And all it does is it adds to your stress. It adds to the anxiety you were initially feeling around meeting new friends. So show up as yourself. The right people will like you and be attracted to you. And those are the people you want to be around anyway. So it's gaining some comfort. And you know what? This is me. I've got small wrists. I know not everyone can see. I've got small wrists. I've got a crooked smile. I eat far too much chocolate. Love it or hate it, I'm okay with it. Some might not resonate, but those who love chocolate will give me a high five.
Okay, I'm looking at you and I do not see the crooked smile, Karen,
Oh,
but
I do.
it's a great suggestion. And I think that the beauty of that is a couple fold. When we show up as ourselves, then we attract our true friends. Like work, we don't always have the ability to choose who's going to be, in the next cubicle, but our friends we do. And I know in my own situation, I made a big shift when I got divorced. So I lost a lot of friends in the divorce. They sided with my ex. And then I really did a lot of self really self-searching. And I know now the friends I have love me for me. So that's really important. Don't wear a mask because you're not going to be happy with those friends that are in your life.
Oh, so true. It's so true. And I mean, it's you either learn it sooner or later because it will come out, because there will be a point in time where you get tired of acting. It's just too much work to actually go out. You find yourself always making excuses. Do you want to have a drink? Do you want to go for tea? No, I'm busy, but you're not. You just don't want to put on the mask. So be yourself, right? Be honest. Stop hiding. Stop trying to fit in. You want people to be attracted to you for the right reason. And those are the best friends to have.
And the beauty of that too, and particularly at midlife, is that when we do that, we give other women at midlife permission to do the same. I love when I go into Instagram and I see people not trying to be anybody else, but just being themselves, doing their thing, wearing the hair the way they want to, dressing the way they want. And then it really gives us all permission to shine. So that is a great tip. So I am in a new relationship. So I'm almost 2 years engaged with an amazing man. So I need some tips on romantic partners, although I feel like we communicate really well. We both are have Mercury and Capricorn, so our brains kind of work the same way. We have a really well matched. But for people who are listening who are struggling with their romantic partner, what suggestions do you have for communication?
Oh, I have so many, but let's start here. Stop expecting your partner to read your mind. Do not sit and stew in what you think they should notice, or don't they see? We've all had these conversations in our head. Don't they see what I want? I've been talking about it. I've been looking at it, and we expect them to highly notice, right? Speak up. So the first one is that. Don't expect your partner to read your mind. The next one is this, is really choose your battles, right? Not everything has to be humongous. Not everything has to be a blow up. When it comes to relationship, it's called compromise. That's what a healthy relationship looks like. Being able to agree to disagree. That's another big piece here, because we shouldn't be in it for a matter of competition or I always need to be right. It's okay to disagree, and that's actually a healthy way to communicate as well. So be okay and be comfortable, or more comfortable, sharing your opinion, although it opposes or may oppose that of your partners, right? No one has to be right. Choose your battles. So that's another huge one to keep in mind, or at the top of your mind as well.
Yeah, it's really important. Don't expect your partner to read your mind, and choose your battles. And I find it's also important to look at your relationship as a mirror. Like, are you criticizing your partner because there's something you don't like in yourself?
It's so true.
You have to really look. It's like, am I upset about what they are doing because it's something inside of me? And I think relationships can be such a huge opportunity to grow and thrive. And let the little stuff go. Like I find with my partner now, it's just not worth it. And I learned so much from my first marriage about mistakes, and we fought all the time. It was just this really bad dynamic, but I don't think we've ever really had a fight, because we just love each other too much, and we just figure things out. But you do have to let your partner know what you need, whether that is, it's a birthday and this is what I want it to be,
Yes.
or I don't like it when you do X, Y, or Z. Like I had to talk to my partner because he kind of gets lost, particularly when he's gardening. We've got a ridiculous, huge garden, and he can go till sundown, right? So if I want to be like, okay, I want to spend some time, make a nice dinner, open a bottle of wine, play some music, watch something on TV, I have to be like, Kenny, can you set your phone for 7:00 and be in for 7:00? And I usually give him the 7:15 and he's good. So let's talk about family. I know a lot of people listening have those wonderful things called teenagers.
Yes,
and also adult children. What can you do? And also, parents too, right? A lot of us we're sandwiched. What do you do about the non-romantic parts of your family?
Oh, I love that about adult children. I have two of my own. And the biggest thing is stop sharing your opinion unless you're asked, right? And some of the language I have some of my clients adopt when they're speaking and supporting and communicating, or wanting to enhance their communication with their adult children, is more around like, how can I support you? As a parent, when your children are young, we know we're there to support and fix, but the support looks different as they get older. So more engaging them in conversation as not necessarily your peer, just a human being who might be experiencing things that are similar to what you're experiencing as an adult as well. So sometimes we have to take off that mom hat, that parent hat, and it's not even about being a friend. Just be a caring and genuine human being, which you are, but hold on to your opinion unless they say, you know what, Dr. Ellen, Mom, what do you think? What do you think I should do? Because quite often, most of us just want to be heard. There's a lot of opinions out there. So when they're
Yeah.
expressing things, at times we need to hold back and just receive it.
So it's compassionate listening,
It is. It
just
truly
being
is.
there. It's like, I think so much is about holding a container. And I think, and I know that our next guest, Jacqueline's going to talk more about this later, but just being present, like realizing, and I think with relationships, particularly romantic relationships, if you've been in it, especially if you've been in a relationship for a really long time, you don't totally know that person. Like every day is new, every moment of connection is new. And so to just really see that person for the magnificent divine human that they are, and slow it down and just listen. It's just
It
hard
is.
for a lot of people.
It is because we've been groomed to be in solution mode. We're always fixing. We always want to better, and sometimes we just need to pause. And some of the other questions to ask are just simply, "How are you feeling?" And stop talking. Right?
Yeah.
Don't give them a prescription of how they should feel or why they're feeling it that way. Just listen and genuinely listen, actively listen. And when I use the word actively listen, here's what I mean, because we hear it all the time. Do not start to create or preempt your response while the other person is talking. So just as you shared, be present, be there with them. Listen all the way until they finish speaking, because quite too often the person's responding before the other person's finished talking. And in that essence, we're only hearing them. And as humans, we can innately hear things. So we hear the wind. But when you actively listen, you're present with a person. You're connecting with what they're saying, and you're replying based on what they've said as a whole, not what you think they've said.
Yeah,
So
that
that
goes
active listening is important.
back to your first point about like not looking at the outcome that you want, and just sort of be open and spacious in terms of just holding space for what is going to rise. I always love asking people, what do you need? Or how can I support you?
Yes. Yes.
And keeping with, I think with kids too, I know my kids are, let's see, 21 and almost 25. And so that is a big switch when you sort of, big kids, big problems, right? And you kind of worry about them, but they're really in charge, and you have to somehow keep the lines of communication open. So if they really do need something from you, you can be there for them. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about toxic relationships. What is considered a toxic relationship?
Really good question. Again, any relationship that primarily makes you feel worse instead of better could be considered, and I like to use the word toxic and unhealthy, because quite often, or at times, when we use the word toxic, some people will dismiss it and say, you know what, that's not me. Everything's fine. They're not hitting, they're not abusive. It can also just be unhealthy. So if someone in your relationship is making you feel unsupported, they're demeaning you, they're attacking you, they're making you feel small, you feel like you're suffering when you're entering spaces with them, or you find that you have to be in a certain stage, box, frame of mind before you go in, that's an unhealthy or toxic relationship. Your intention should be to bring happiness and get happiness from a relationship. And if you find that that's being beaten down, that's a sign that your relationship could be unhealthy or toxic.
Yeah, it happens a lot to women. I know that it can be very, very painful, and you can get into dynamics that really, really aren't working. What do you feel are the most toxic kind of relationships that women at midlife face?
It's often with their immediate partner, and or their circle of friends, usually their female friends. So that's what I find most often. I mean, with your immediate partner, as we grow, and as for some people in midlife, they become empty nesters, and some have never had children at their choice, or nonetheless, things shift. What you perceive is different. What you allow, and that's the big thing, what you now allow totally shifts, because you realize that I get to decide. Or there's a realization that I haven't been deciding. I've been going with the flow. So that's where the immediate partner comes in, because we've gotten into a pattern. So if you've been in a relationship or with someone with 2 years or plus, for 2 years or plus, or even more than that that length of time, there is a pattern of behavior. Sometimes it's automated. Sometimes it's just all we know. And there comes a time where you're like, hold on, I really don't like doing this. And the only reason I'm doing this is because X, Y, Z. And they're not reciprocating. And I no longer want to do it. So you see, one person's used to that pattern. And for that woman, you wake up and you're like, no, this second half of my life is going to be about me. and it's okay. So that's where that whole immediate partner comes in. With the female friend circles, what I've experienced with working with clients is they've noticed that either they've been neglected in the relationship or that friend circle, they're the last one to be asked, they're the go-to person for something, that always planner, and you didn't really like doing it, you did it to fit in, and now you want to try something different or do something different. And once again, there's been that pattern of how you showed up. So that's why I say it's more in that, with the immediate partner relationship, and that with your friend circle, at most times your female friend circle.
So it sounds like, Karen, that it's all about acknowledging that you have some control in the situation, that you have to decide, okay, I'm going to show up differently. Or also, like in my case, leaving a marriage that wasn't working for me, that I was very unhappy in, leaving. Saying, we get these ideas that marriage is forever, but I think that that's something a lot of women at midlife, particularly because we're living longer, and once the kids go, the dynamic really shifts. And also at midlife, we also often have a lot of challenges. Like myself personally, I'm going through breast cancer right now, so it's like changes your perspective of like, life is short. Do I want to do these things? But people can be empowered to make different choices, to show up differently in the toxic relationships, or to leave.
Oh, indeed. I think what also switches to tie into what you just said is we start to make intentional choices. Most of our choices start to be made with intention. And if you look at, the first half of your life or first chapter, whatever you want to call it, you'll find that a lot of your choices, not for everybody, were often influenced. And now you're saying, okay, what do I want? Not what will make my family happy, what will look good, do you know what I mean? What will my culture say? What will my partner, no, what do I want? Right? So that shifts. So the intentional choices is a huge thing, and you choose for you, and it's okay.
And it's also that, what you maybe wanted when you were in your 20s or 30s isn't necessarily what you want in your 40s or 50s. So we change.
Absolutely.
Partners don't always change with us.
Absolutely.
And I loved what you said about, and that was kind of my situation of feeling like I was climbing this ladder of success and I had all these things, but it was up against the wrong building because it was somebody else's vision, or some of my vision I had in my head about what a relationship should look like. And so you can shift at midlife and you start deciding, what truly is going to make me happy, which goes back to the, I talked about initially about confidence and confiding in yourself and trusting in yourself. So we have a few more minutes. I'd love to talk a little bit more about confidence, because I know that's something that you help a lot of executive women about, something you also speak about. What are some of your other confidence tips? If someone's listening going, oh my gosh, I feel like I should put a bag over my head, I don't know who I am anymore, I don't feel comfortable in my skin, what would you say to her?
Oh, definitely. So I would say when a lot of work the work that needs to be put in is this. We know what we want to say in our head. Quite often the work is getting it out of your mouth, right? I'll definitely go back to commit to speaking up and let go of it. So your win is not getting what you want. Your win is actually speaking up, right? And when you speak up, I often say, be responsible and take responsibility for your feelings, and go from a perspective of I feel like this isn't working. I feel like I'm not being given an opportunity at work to present as much as I want to, because it's okay to voice your opinion. And the biggest thing is that your voice matters. I don't care if you have a helicopter pad on the top of your building, like some of my clients do, right? Or you have $50 or $500 in your bank account. Your voice matters. And it starts with your self-belief. And the last thing I want to say here is, I challenge individuals who have decided to increase their level of confidence to ask yourself this: what do I believe to be true about myself? Because quite often, once you write down on a piece of paper, what is true about me? A lot of those thoughts have been inherited. A lot of those thoughts have been carried from our parents. We've heard at our workplace, someone said you don't write well in grade 6, so you don't think you're a good writer. And I want you to look at it, release it, and develop, redefine, and reset what you want to believe to be true for yourself, because we get to decide what our self-belief says. But we have to take the time out to pause, look at what we've been believing for the past few years, decades maybe, release it, and rewrite our own story.
That is a gem. So if you have a piece of paper, write down, question your beliefs, because your beliefs really impact your actions, impact your outcomes, your emotions. And so important to do. There's a wonderful woman named Byron Katie who has something that's literally called the work, where what you do is you ask, is this true? So if you have this belief, I'm not a good writer, or I'm not a good speaker, or I don't have anything important to say, you're like, you ask yourself, is it really true? Then you ask yourself again, is it really true? And usually you can't be 100% sure. That's the second question. Can you be 100% sure that it's true? And then you ask yourself, does it make me feel when I have this belief that I don't have anything to contribute in this meeting, or I'm not a good writer? And then ask yourself, how would I feel and who would I be if I jettison that belief? And then she does these turnaround pieces where, this kind of work, right? Where you say, yes, I am something that could be equally true. I am a good writer. I do have things to contribute, but it really comes down to raising your hand, leaning in. What if a woman doesn't feel authentic? Any thoughts when she's like feeling like an imposter syndrome, when she feels like I have a real hard time showing up as myself?
Okay, so here's where I go to, similar to what you're saying about Byron Katie. I ask you to consider this question. Is it a fact or is it a feeling? Because quite often we allow our feelings to drive how we act and what we think. And I want you to look at the facts, because I'm not sure if I can say this. Ladies, we are badasses in this world. And often we look for external acknowledgement. So I want you to write down, however you're feeling, that imposter syndrome. What's the actual fact? And you will actually see for yourself that what you're thinking is your emotion talking. Write down the facts, see how badass you are, and walk in the world as your authentic self, because there's no one else like you in the world.
All right. So the bottom line is walk like your authentic self, because there is no one like you in the world. Karen, it's so good talking to you. We're going to take a little break. And when we come back, we are going to be talking to Jacqueline, who is the freaky healer. I've been dying to ask her where she got that moniker, because I love it. She's going to ask Karen a question, and we are really going to dig into how to really be your happiest self at midlife. We'll catch you on the other side.
You are listening to Rock Your Midlife with Dr. Ellen, the Midlife Whisperer. Have a question for Dr. Ellen or her guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5788. That's 866-472-5788. Now back to the show. Here again is Dr. Ellen, the Midlife Whisperer.
Welcome back to Rock Your Midlife. I am so grateful that you are here. And I want to let you know that the show is sponsored by theoptimal.me for the midlifer who wants to feel younger, stay active, independent, and energetic without pain or injury, and feel confident that this phase of life is their best yet. You can take control of how you age with theoptimal.me. You're never too old to take a smarter approach to aging and give yourself the freedom to make the next chapter your best chapter. And I have been using it. I'm a jock at heart, but as we are aging, we really need to take care of our bodies in new ways. And it's super easy and fun to use. Check them out. You can get a month for free. It's theoptimal.me. So our next guest is known as the Freaky Healer. She is Jacqueline Patel, and she is a best-selling author, speaker, knowing of the soul thought leader, mindful happiness expert, and holistic practitioner with 24 years of experience helping thousands of clients discover their own happiness and how to live a conscious and mindful life. She has shared her solid teachings through her best-selling books, her podcast, The Daily Freak, and presentations all over the world. Jacqueline, welcome to Rock Your Midlife.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Ellen. Really excited for this.
And I should say you were born in Switzerland, but now you are in Florida. And before the break, we were speaking about you asking Karen a question. So we just spoke with Karen. Do you have a question for Karen?
I do. And it's like something I think is really great to address, which would be when you were speaking, Karen, I loved all your answers and your teachings and wisdom. And so what would you say to moms in what they could share and how they could share about confidence to their young daughters? Because I really do believe there is, what we do and what we do now in our next chapter of the life, but also like how can a mom share confidence and kind of, support the confidence in their younger daughters, like a trick or two that you say like that is really important.
I absolutely love that. So I'm a mom of two. My girls are older, but it started at a very young age. The biggest thing, it's not exactly what you say, it's what you do. So when we look in the mirror and I look in it and I say, oh, geez, I'm chubby. Let me tell you that your daughter, no matter the age and the younger, this is when they're more conscious of it. They're watching and they're receiving and they're eating all of that up. So as moms, please be intentional with what you say to yourself, because your young ladies, your daughters, your kids, your female daughters, including your young boys, will be taking that in and they'll replicate your behavior. So all of a sudden, they're now looking in the mirror and they're finding only faults about themselves. So it's more so around what you do. And the biggest exercise is literally waking up in the morning and, acknowledging what you love about yourself. And for me at home with the kids, it was always around the dinner table or breakfast table. What do you love most about yourself? And I made them answer. Then all of a sudden it becomes a pattern. Then all of a sudden, that's what they primarily start to see, because we have to counteract what they experience in life and what they see socially. So that positive talk with them and having them answer those questions so they can verbate and verbalize what they actually like and love about themselves. But it's the doing matched with the speaking with them and speaking to them and having them converse with you.
Great answer. So you've got to be a good example. It's more what you do than just what you said. I actually got such a great feeling the other day. My mother told me, my daughter didn't tell me this, but my mother told me I'm very positive, right? And my daughter said, it used to really annoy me, Mom, how positive you were. But now she was like, I'm so glad. And I'm learning so much from you around that. So it was like, wow,
Yes.
It took 25 years to get that. But yeah, do show up, because they are watching, particularly around the eating, the body image, because girls are picking that up all the time. So let's get into happiness. One of my favorite topics. So before we get that, I want to know, how did you get the name The Freaky Healer? I love that moniker. Like, did it just pop up one day? And what does that mean to you?
Well, it certainly kind of just popped up one day, because I'm a very aligned person and I kind of just go with, and I always ask and listen to what's coming in for me. And, like back in time when we have two kids, and when the kids were smaller, I always worked and helped, clients. Yet it was more kind of like on the, in the private ways, and then I started writing, creating a blog, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, I need a name for a website. And one day I'm like, okay, what's it gonna be, please? And it was Freaky Healer. And we were at a picnic. We lived in Italy back then. And we were at a picnic and I said, well, people, I need a name for my website. How about Freaky Healer? And everyone was just jumping up and down saying, this fits so well. It fits so amazing. And that's how Freaky Healer was born. I always want to, when that question comes, I always want to say, well, I stood on top of a volcano and there came and spewed and I had this. No, it was actually kind of just waking up in the morning and saying, so, and then that there comes, and I'm really glad I did, because to this day, I just love it. And what does it mean to me? Well, it kind of initiates for you to already kind of like come with an open mind when you see me and when you work with me, because to me it's like, first of all I do is very, very specific for every person, a little different, because every person is layered differently, and I work with energy, right? And so it's very specific, and you are your unique you. So when you read Freaky Healer and then you actually contact me and you look at the work I do, it opens you already up energetically to Freaky Healer. Oh, what is that? And then there comes that wonder and that magic and that, ooh, what does she do? And it builds kind of like the stage for my work, because not all of my work is, well, guess what? Work week 1, we do this, week 2, we do this, week 3, we do this. No, it's like really for you to getting to know yourself better and going closer to you. And quite frankly, that's very unique. And you got to be very open and a little bit on the freaky side to say, well, who am I? Because I'm very unique and I want to align with that. So it served me well, and it's a wonderful stage opener to, what I do actually.
Yeah, it suits you. And I would say it's a magnet for giving other people permission to be themselves and magnetizing people who want to be like you. Because I looked at your website and your vibration, and you're very unique and and it's fun too. You're not taking yourself so seriously. And I think when we think about healing, it's very serious and coaching, but it kind of livens things up and gives people permission. So let's dig into happiness. So what are some of your keys, your steps for people who listening who want to be happier? Where do you start?
First of all, to really realize that nothing has to change, right as you are and what the situation is, that you can literally create a feeling well, feeling well state where you are right now. Because I believe in that you can feel well right now, and it doesn't have to be hard. Because if you say, something has to change, then it's going to be down the road I'll feel good, or you have the pressure of something has to change, and there comes pressure, there comes expectation, and you're putting the momentum of actually a situation that's not happened yet. So to really just realize right now, sit down, breathe, and just look around you and start sensing yourself that you can actually feel well right now. Even if you have tears rolling down your cheeks, it doesn't really matter. You can actually find wellness right now. Nothing has to change. And also that you are okay the way you are right now, and just realize that it's possible right now. And then to start really small, let's say you're unhappy in your job, for instance, or with your family situation. That's a real big mountain you're looking at to try to be happy right away. No, to just put your feet on the ground when you get up in the morning. Feel your feet, or while you're still in bed, feel your soft sheets that you have and your pillow, and look around, and like these little things. And go outside, listen to the birds, and realize, well, what do I like in the morning? Do I like coffee, tea, or lemon water? And well, why do I like it? Oh, because it feels so delicious to me. And to really kind of dig into these mindful ways of being happy and feeling good. And what happens with that is basically it becomes a habit. It becomes a habit that you're actually just well the way it is. And what happens then is you shift into a different frequency, because you're vibrating in a frequency of lack and unhappiness, or possible happiness. And to realize what's actually there. And when you shift yourself that way, you're in a frequency of where happiness becomes your normal way of being without anything needing to happen. And then you can start looking at the bigger issues in your life, and a lot of them actually shifted. Because before you looked at them like, oh, wow, that's a disaster. Well, now you're in a different state, in a higher frequency. You're looking at it through different eyes, through a different heart. And meaning that not only is your surrounding already changed, because everything is always changing, but you have changed too. And then you can work with what's left. And even there, you can find really wellness in everything, really.
I love that. So it's all about just being happy where you are at. And the reason that's so powerful is, our culture is always saying, when you have that car, that relationship, that you lose the weight, you change your, whatever it is, our consumer culture tells us you need to do these things, and we're happy momentarily, but it's like we're a dog chasing its tail constantly, looking for that next thing and that next thing and that next thing. And joy is about being, or that inner happiness. I think of as joy and inner happiness versus sort of external, looking for things to make you happy. You can be happy right now in this moment, just like you said, breathing and enjoying. I know it's spring now and it's gorgeous here, and there's migrating birds, and there's so much to be happy with. And the cool thing is, when you start to have that vibration, you raise your vibration, you're happier, then you start to attract those things. So those external things show up, but they're the external things that are really going to make you happy, versus you think like the car, the relationship, the new clothing is going to make you happy. I like a cute pair of shoes, that certainly is, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're always looking, it becomes addictive, right? That you're looking for something, what's a level of what's called dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter. So I love that. So just look for things in the moment. It's kind of what I was saying earlier about savoring. So if something good happens, or finding good things, or just enjoying being present. So you talked a little bit about mindfulness. If people are new to this concept of mindfulness, can you explain what mindfulness is and how people can go about it?
Absolutely. And if I may add something on, it's like with the shoes, I like beautiful stuff too. However, it's not really the stuff, it's the feeling that it gives you. And what's the feeling that gives you? You can feel that without even having it. And that's really the trick, to focus more on the feeling versus really the what, right? Because why do we want things? Because it makes us happy. So to really dig into the feeling. So about
just
mindfulness.
to add to the feeling,
Yeah. Yes.
feeling too, just to say from a law of attraction perspective, the feeling is really such an important piece. Like I have people who are kind of writing down what they want, doing the vision board, all this stuff, but you've got to feel as if you already have it. It's that emotional piece. I call it destination vibration, which is something I talk about in my book, Rock Your Midlife. And that's what I feel attracted this whole beautiful place where I live on this island with this amazing man, because I was doing this thing where I was visualizing myself dancing and that vibration of how I feel when I dance. And then I started attracting all of these things that really made me happy. So you've got to bring the emotional piece. I think a lot of people do the visualization, but they don't think about that emotional, really enjoying. Like if you think about, like, I know we got a beautiful background of flowers. Like how does smelling that flower make you feel? So go ahead with mindfulness though. I just wanted to interject.
Yeah, no, I love what you just said. Yeah, I love that. I love that because it's that missing link for many. So, right. So mindfulness. Well, I tell you what, easiest way to say this, you can go put on your shoes and go for a walk, or you can put on your shoes and sense your shoes, and wow, those are running shoes. They make me feel light and fast and jumpy, and really fit. And then you open the door and you smell everything, and then you go on a walk. And it's funny because I create meditations, that I just created the walking meditation that changes everything, because you're going on a walking meditation and then you're looking at, you're stopping what's in your surroundings, what catches your attention. Why does it catch your attention? Have you looked in the sky yet today? Ooh, what kind of artistic and creative things do you see in the sky? What does the sky even make you feel like? Oh, it's gray. Well, how would you like it? Because a lot of people say, oh, it's gray and rainy. Well, how would you like the sky to be? Imagine it in that color. And to, watch the leaves in the wind. When was the last time you watched an ant in the dirt? You talked to an ant, hugged a tree, or so that's kind of like mindfulness. And yes, you can take it all the way to craziness and go hug a tree like I do, which makes me always feel amazing. But you can start little, right? It's like when you sip the coffee. Well, instead of just downing that coffee, ooh, that was good. No, take your time. And how does this coffee make you feel? And chocolate, we talked about chocolate. I'm a chocolate person too. So, well, how does this chocolate make you feel? Describe it in your mind. Become imaginary. Become one with the chocolate. Be the chocolate. And then when it's in your body, well, okay, I just put this chocolate in my body. That means if you actually tune into the energetic value of the chocolate and entering your body, that means you are raising your frequency into the frequency of chocolate, which is amazing. So, and it's just this mindfulness or journal, how do I feel? What's the word of the day? What's your favorite word for today? Terrific. Well, okay. How does that make you feel? How can you use it in complimenting others? Use that word all day long. What's your favorite song? What's your favorite color? Why is it your favorite? How does it make you feel? What's the value in it? So mindfulness is really it's not even just to be present, because you can be present and still not be mindful, right? You can be happy and still not be mindful. It's like a combination of things, to slow down in the beginning, to practice a little bit, to become more aware, right, of everything out there and how it feels and whatnot. And then also, of course, then to sense what makes you happy and what doesn't. Because I tell you what, a lot of people say, well, Jackie, but how do you really become happy? I mean, I kind of feel sometimes, but then it slips away again. I'm like, well, you got to kind of realize how happiness even feels for you. How does happiness even feel for you? And then what does it mean for you? Like to become mindful about everything that you do, or you have a headache. Well, how does it make you feel? What's the mindfulness of it, you know what I mean? Or where does it come from? Tune into your body. There's all this wisdom. And in reality, it's really getting closer to who you really are. And I think there's just nothing can go wrong, in that way of living, because everything is always right out there. The wisdom, how you want to feel, what to do next. And it's just all out there. And that's what I really mean with mindfulness.
That's such an interesting perspective and approach. And I love that chocolate metaphor, because when
Oh,
you think about it and how amazing chocolate is, like when you start to think about like where it came from, how it was grown, how it was processed, all of the hands that went into making that chocolate, how it's interacting with you and raising up your endorphins, and how it is nourishing your body, just the amazingness that we can experience this thing called chocolate. Like being a human is so incredible, to be able to experience all of these sensory pleasures, using our sense of smell, taste, touch, eyes, hearing, connecting with other people, loving other people. It's all neurotransmitters in your brain making you feel a certain way, but you can actively, like what Karen was saying about actively taking control of relationships, we can actively take control of our own happiness. And we don't really need to do so much as we need to show up and be different and really enjoy our present reality and start to really take things in and focus more.
I agree. And really to realize it's an inside job. It has nothing to do with the outside, because if you base it on the outside, you're constantly chasing something, and you cannot really, a lot of times you can't change the outside. Yet the inside of you, it's like when you fall in love with your inner you and you align, and you're just like, because even then when you have a sad moment, that's happiness too. Crying is so cleansing. That's happiness too. A headache is happiness too, because it shows you, hey, that's what I need to do for myself, right? And to get to know yourself. And that's why it's a real inside job. And the more you do it, the more you fall in love with yourself. And when you're in love with yourself, oh, you're so bright and shiny. And I mean, you're gonna just walk out there, and it's just, life is good no matter what. And you have so much to give then too.
Yeah, and what an incredible world it would be if everybody saw how magnificent they were, right? If each of us, I know that you two women look in the mirror and just every day and like, I love myself, I love the woman that I've become. But if you're listening, you can get to this place. It doesn't happen overnight. I know both Karen and Jacqueline and myself, we've been working on this, like loving ourselves, appreciating ourselves, rocking who we are. But it really starts with being authentic, loving yourself, taking care, doing that self-care to take care of your body, slowing down, turning off the media. I mean, the media is a shit show these days. I mean, I won't even say what I saw today, but you've got to sort of, I love a metaphor someone's used the other day, where it's sort of like you almost have a brick wall and you're just looking over the brick wall to keep an eye on what's going on in the world, but giving yourself permission to focus on you and giving yourself permission to be present, to be happy. So I want to talk a little bit, we have a couple more minutes, about how do you find your purpose in all this? And then we're going to have Karen ask you a question, but real quickly, someone's listening. That's another question I get from women all the time. I don't know who I'm supposed to be. I don't know what I'm doing here. How do we start to lean into our purpose?
Well, purpose is a tricky thing, because I tell you what, if you're constantly looking for your purpose, when you find it, you've already changed again. You already changed it. Okay, then you know your purpose. But you know what? That purpose is kind of like not even true anymore, because everything is always changing. And it can get you really wound up into then further down, feel low, because I can't find, what am I supposed to do? What not? I think that really focusing on the purpose of you being falling in love with yourself. And like you say, hey, I have times too where I'm like not really aligned with myself or not love myself, but I take this as a gift and say, oh, I got some work to do. Where's this coming from? What can I do different? And to really, your purpose is really you being you taking excellent care of yourself, and you aligning with what's right for you at any given moment, because you're always changing, and not to focus on that purpose, but more on your inner alignment with you. That means you're always in your purpose. You really are.
So be the youest you. So we only have a few moments here, and I want Karen to have an opportunity to ask you a question. So Karen, do you have a question for Jacqueline?
Absolutely. Jacqueline, everything you shared was so yummy. My question is this: as people get in a moment where stuff is just not happening for them and they're in a bad mood, what is that one thing they can do to choose and create happiness within themselves? Like, what can I do in that moment where shit's hitting the fan?
It's very simple. Don't try to fix it or change it, but just say, you know what, right now, that's just how I feel. Okay, and that's okay. That's part of me too. So from that moment, you don't have any pressure to change anything. Well, what can I do the next step? Change the scenery, go outside, shake your energy around, with dancing or exercising or moving. Don't stay in the room that you are. Just say, that's the way I feel, and that's okay. And then change the scenery and see, everything is going to change right there. And from there, you are easier in a changing mode.
I love that. So accept what is, and that is such empowering advice, and then go out and do something a little different. So have a moment. I want each of you to share where people can find you. I know that, Jacqueline, you also have a wonderful, generous offer of 50% for if people want to work with you, either membership, monthly or yearly. It's show special. And where can, if it's the freakyhealer.com, correct?
Yes, freakyhealer.com on the membership, and you just put in the code there and I will give it to you.
Okay. And Karen, where can people connect with you?
People can find me at Karen Donaldson Inc. Inc.com. I have a confidence boot camp for men and women, and you just mentioned Dr. Ellen, and we have a special gift for you as well.
All right, super. Well, thank you so much for being here. This has been so much fun. Raised my vibe. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to get in touch with me, I am themidlifewhisperer.com. That's themidlifewhisperer.com. If you enjoyed the show, let me know. Leave me a review on your favorite podcast platforms, and let your women friends know about the show, because let's all raise our vibes and rock our midlife. Have a great week, and thanks again for listening.